Hi, I'm your host, Jürgen Strauss from Innova.buzz, and I'm really excited to welcome today to the Innova.buzz podcast from Florida in the United States, Daniel Den, who's a trailblazing founder of Ideas That Influence, and he's also co-creator of the X Factor Effect methodology, which we will be exploring today. So welcome to the Innova.buzz podcast, Daniel. It's a real privilege to have you here as my guest.
Hey, Jürgen Strauss, thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here on Innova.buzz, to talk about the buzz, to talk about the innovation and the differentiation. And what's most exciting, probably the most exciting thing in the pre-interview, we aligned on so many different levels. I was like, wow, we are on the same wavelength. So this is going to be good. This is going to be good.
Yeah. So look out for an exciting episode. And I've been looking forward to this ever since you sent me an email saying, "Hey, I'd like to come on the show and add value, but I want to do it in a different way. I need your mailing address because I want to send you my book, which is the Ideas That Influence book, and it's not just a book, it's a whole experience. So that's one of the ways to stand out clearly. I'm looking forward to digging into that too. The whole idea of different is a new better. So before we start digging into that, Daniel, what's the impact you're aiming to make in the world today?
The impact, well, we've helped over 20,000 students and clients. And when it comes to everything about being different, the X factor effect, everything that we help people with, it leads people to start innovating inside of their niche market. And what I realized, Jürgen, is that we are having a hand in affecting economies. Like we are helping at least growing people's personal GDPs and the GDPs amongst their friends, family members, and the people that they work with. Because when you start to differentiate and when you start to innovate, more money starts exchanging hands, and it makes for just richer people. It's kind of like the Midas touch. I think that the Innova.buzz podcast, I mean, if we wanted to one day call it the Midas touch podcast, everything we're talking about with differentiation and innovation, it kind of has this Midas touch effect, which is really, really cool.
Yeah, I love that. And I love what you kind of wove into that, which is it's about increasing sort of a personal GDP at a personal level, at a business level, but then it's kind of moves money around the economy and ends up being good for everyone.
Yeah, I had this realization. I mean, we've been working with our students and clients for about 12 years, and I think it was on a trip to, it was a cruise to Haiti, and on that cruise to Haiti, the wares that we had access to buy were the same wares that I saw on other islands. And what I realized is in certain countries around the world, not very much money is exchanging hands because of a lack of differentiation, a lack of innovation, a lack of things for people to trade their money for. And I've actually been in places around the world where I want to spend more money on cool experiences usually, and there's not enough cool experiences for me to exchange my money with. And what happens is if you are in a situation with your local business or with your local economy, if you start to innovate and differentiate, and then those around you start to innovate and differentiate as well, then everybody in that area starts to exchange more. And then the GDP of that entire area grows because we're innovating and differentiating and creating more offers in the world that people want to exchange their money for, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it totally makes sense. And I mean, it's beyond that. Once somebody shows some leadership with an initiative that might be a differentiated product or a differentiated service, then it does two things. It forces competitors to up their game, and it also gives people permission to, I might try something like that out of the box that's sort of against the rules of what's normal.
Right. Yep. 100%.
Yeah. So how have you seen the shift in marketing and the paradigms around marketing over the time you've been in business, and what's that how's that led to your X factor effect, and how does that impact?
Yeah. So what's interesting about shifts in marketing is, so I started doing the whole internet marketing thing like around 2007. I started doing things with eBay in 2007. So let's see, how many years now? About 17 years I've been doing some form of internet marketing. And in the beginning of this internet boom, and of course, 2007 wasn't the beginning, but things really started to take off around 2007. If we're like looking at like the trajectory of how much money has been exchanging hands through the internet, and in 2007, you could be different in your local area just by using the internet. This was back when a lot of businesses locally still didn't have websites.
Yep.
And so if you had a website and you were running Google ads, sometimes that's all you needed to do on the marketing side to be different, because you were using a marketing vertical that very few people in your niche were using. And it was an effective marketing vertical. This was like kind of right around the time as well when phone books started to become less and less popular as internet marketing became more and more popular. And so what the trends I've seen is, since, 2007, 2008, even up until like 2012-ish, sometimes a differentiator for your marketing was simply in your niche market using a marketing vertical that nobody else in your niche was really utilizing at the moment. So if you were the only one really hitting it big on YouTube in 2012 in your niche, that was a way to differentiate. It's like easy, right? But today it's 2024 and that doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah.
You're not going to be the first person in your niche doing something on YouTube or running Facebook and Instagram ads or doing Google, especially not doing Google ads. You're not even going to be the first person more than likely doing anything on TikTok in 2024. Now TikTok is saturated. Like it's just amazing the amount of noise that's out there, and it's hard to be the first in a new quote unquote marketing vertical. And so the shift in 2024 kind of goes like this, Jurgen. We're all exposed to about 4,000 to 10,000 different marketing pieces every single day. This is according to a recent Forbes article. 4,000 to 10,000 different ads, marketing pieces, and things vying for our attention every single day. And the trick in 2024 is to be that one thing that your dream customers remembered from yesterday. That's the trick. How do we become that one thing that stood out amongst all the noise from yesterday? Because yesterday, Jurgen, you and Victoria were probably exposed to a few thousand different ads and marketing pieces and things vying for your attention in some way, shape, or form. And usually it's only like one thing that you remember. If that, sometimes it's none.
Yeah.
That like stood out from like, out of everything, that out of all the noise from yesterday, usually it's like one thing that we remember.
Yeah, that's a really important point, I think. And you kind of touched on something there, being focused on the dream customer. And I remember even way back in 2007, when some of the businesses I was working with still didn't have websites, and the first questions I'd ask them is, well, who's your ideal customer? And because that's, when we build a website, that's who we have to talk to. And right. It's a little bit like that, isn't it? That sort of fundamental principle still applies. But then the challenge today is, how do you stand out from the noise? And one of the things I always think is, and I reflect on this myself, I go into my email and there's hundreds of emails there every day. And of those, let's say 200, 199, I'm just going to click select, delete. I don't even, I kind of quickly scan who's it from and the title, and I'll delete. And sometimes I'll take the time of, I'm getting sick of this, I'll unsubscribe from some of these. But some of them I'm actually kind of interested to stay in touch. But the mere behavior that I do and reflect on, I think, well, there's nothing there that stood out from the other 200 to make me spend time reading it. And so if there's a message in there somewhere that says, hey, I have something that you might be interested in, I'm never going to see it. And that's the key, isn't it? To kind of understand who your ideal client is, how they're behaving in terms of consuming, whether it's email or whether it's advertising on Facebook or Google, and then crafting something that stands out, grabs their attention, and then gives them some value once you've got their attention.
Yeah. And so you hit on one of the 7 elements that we talk about in Ideas That Influence, because the whole purpose of the book and the box experience that you received, and that everybody listening today can get as well, the purpose of it is to craft that winning marketing message, to be that one thing that your dream customers actually did pay attention to today. And one of the 7 elements is that you have to put the customer center stage. So everybody's heard it. Oh, it's not about you. It's not about your product. It's not about, your brand. It's about the customer. And so that's one of the 7 elements. Understand the needs and wants and desires of your dream customers, and then put that into your messaging, and make the messaging all about their needs, their wants, their desires. That's one of the 7 elements for having that winning message that breaks through the noise.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Well, you touched on the book experience, or book box experience, which way around? And it's certainly an innovative approach, and I'd love you to kind of talk us through how you came to publish the book Ideas That Influence in that way. I mean, obviously it's you're practicing what you're preaching here, but just explain that a little bit to us, and then we might touch on those 7 pillars.
Sure, 100%. Thank you so much, Jürgen. So I can't talk about the second element, which is to have an X factor, without talking about the box and the book and the experience. So what happened was I wrote this amazing book, okay? Ideas That Influence. That's the book. Like, people absolutely love it if they read it. Now, that's the trick in 2024. Like, how are you going to get the consumption? Like, there's too much noise out there. Me writing a marketing book is not a differentiator. So I need to have something, even when I'm going to launch my book, that's an X factor. And I was sitting with some friends in Mexico at a mastermind. And amongst those friends, they were talking about different things they did with their tangible info products that helped their info products to start selling like crazy. And then the inspiration came. I need to launch the first interactive book box experience that's a free plus shipping funnel. So in 2024, it's not uncommon for people to give away their book. It's free plus shipping. Okay. If I did that, it's a type of marketing funnel that works, but it's not differentiated. That's not a differentiated way for me to sell my book. It's becoming more and more popular. And so I said, well, what if I take it a step further? What if with the book, they get an entire box experience? Because one of the things that we absolutely love in 2024, Jürgen, is a great experience. So what if I bundle my book with this amazing box experience, And what I did is I came up with 5 experience envelopes that come with the book in the box. And what people do is they open envelopes during certain parts of the book. So the book literally directs them back to the box and says, okay, now open envelope number 3. And inside of that envelope, they get access to additional gifts, surprises, and tools that help them follow the process inside of ideas and influence. And the process being to help them come up with their own wildly successful marketing ideas that break through the noise. So the whole reason why I launched my interactive book box experience the way I did, Jurgen, was because our whole thing is, innovating, differentiating. It's the X factor effect. I needed to practice what I preached and have an X factor so that I could break through the noise as well. Because if I didn't, then ideas that influence would have just been another marketing book that's out there.
Yeah, and there's so many of those, right? I often read reviews, and one of the common expressions in the reviews, I mean, usually they're positive reviews about special books, but it usually starts off with something like, the last thing I needed was another marketing book.
There you go.
Yeah. All right.
So, yeah.
So how has that box experience then changed the way your book's perceived and the way your whole business is perceived, the way your message is received? Because you launched the book before, right? You launched it before you did the box experience. So there's sort of a second.
I did not. Okay. I launched it together because I was like, I can't just launch a book the way everybody else launches it. So what I did, it was this year that I launched it. And so far the feedback has been phenomenal from the buyers. 1 out of every 3 buyers of the free plus shipping book box experience has posted about it on social media in some way, shape, or form in a positive way. I've actually received 0 negative feedbacks on social media at all. The worst feedback I've received from anybody was, wow, this is simply amazing, but I have ADD and it's like, I don't like, this is a lot, right? That's like the worst feedback I've received, which, okay, if that's the worst feedback I'm going to get from my book that I poured my heart and soul into, then I'm happy. But so the feedback has been just absolutely incredible. I've received so many unboxing videos from people that have bought and just positive comments on social media. And from the, to have launched a book and to have 1 out of every 3 buyers without me asking post about it on social media is like beyond my wildest dreams. I had no idea that I was going to get that big of an impact. And so now that I've pushed it out organically, now I'm going to start turning on the paid ads, and it's just going to start taking off even more. So we're just super pumped and super excited from all the feedback so far.
Yeah, that's exciting. All right. Well, jumping back to the second part of the question before, can you sort of walk us through very briefly the 5 pillars?
Yeah. So there's 7 key elements.
Sorry. Yeah.
And we talked about 2. So technically you're right. We have 5 more. So so far we talked about, if you want your marketing message to be that one marketing message that people remember today, you need to put the audience center stage. It needs to be all about them. The message has to be all about them. And you need to have an X factor. You need to follow everything Jurgen teaches about innovation and differentiation and everything we teach about the X factor effect, and have something that's different in a way that your dream customers love. So having the X factor is the second element. There's 5 more elements. Okay. One of them, really quickly, is it needs to be focused. Okay. So this makes a lot of sense if we remember that 4 to 10,000 ads / marketing pieces is what we're, and emails, that all goes into the mix, right? that's a lot. Like, we're exposed to too much every single day. So in 2024, for your message to even have a chance at all, it has to be focused. It has to be focused on what? One big idea, one big call to action, one big whatever it is, one big idea. Don't fall into the trap of trying to introduce 2 or 3 or 5 big ideas in your marketing message. It's not going to work. It's just going to get drowned in the sea of sameness. It's going to get caught up in all of the noise, just like all of the other marketing messages out there. So focus that marketing message. Another one is make sure it evokes emotion. Okay. Evokes emotion. If you can make sure that your message evokes emotion in some way, shape, or form. And, it can be, a happy emotion. It can be an angry emotion. It can be a controversial. It needs to evoke emotion in some way, shape, or form. Marketing message that don't evoke some type of emotion, even if it's just through excitement. Yeah. If it doesn't evoke emotion in some way, shape, or form, then it doesn't cut through the noise in 2024. Make sure it evokes emotion. So that's the 4th element. 5th element, share a story. Okay. Stories are what move us to take action. If I just talk about all the cool things in my product, then it starts to get boring. But if I start to share really cool stories about when I, in 2007, and this is, I started my eBay store and I was the very first one to ever start selling these, whatever. There was actually a few things that I was the very first person to sell on eBay, but you get the point. Yeah. It's like, oh, wow, 2007, you were the very first person to sell that on eBay, and you like sold, tens of thousands of dollars worth. That's a cool story, right? That's interesting. And what people don't realize is when I share the right story with my dream customer, they perk up because they're trying to achieve something as well. Mm. And when the right story is shared, they can see their path forward through the story that you're sharing. So it's not stories for the sake of stories. I'm not going to talk about what I ate last night for dinner, because that's a boring story. That's not what my dream customer wants to hear, right? But the right type of stories that make your dream customer perk up and listen, that's what you want to share. So that's the 5th element. 6th element is we want to make it as sticky and shareable as possible. So we're all about sticky marketing messages, things that stick in our minds, okay? And then having it be shareable as well. And then the 7th element is if it can provide an aha moment. When people say aha moment, the reason why this is so powerful is because aha moments provide a mini paradigm shift. And those mini paradigm shifts move people to action. The neurons in people's brains, they make new connections when people have aha moments. And in sales, in marketing and sales today, those aha moments, a lot of the times, the reason why people buy consciously or not consciously happens because they formed a new connection in their mind. They had an aha moment where something clicked, and then they were like, because of that new belief, I'm going to go ahead and buy your product or service. So those are the 7 elements. I'll repeat them real fast for the sake of everybody listening. First, focused on a single concept or idea. Second, put the audience center stage. 3, have an X factor. 4, evoke emotion. 5, share a story. 6 is sticky and shareable. And 7 provides an aha moment. If you can get all 7 of those inside of your marketing message, we've never seen a marketing message with all 7 of those elements that has not done well.
That's excellent, and I love every step of those. It's sort of so aligned with the way we approach things as well. And I strongly encourage you, if you're listening, to rewind back. I don't know how long that was, but rewind back to the beginning of that explanation and listen to it again and make some notes. Yeah, I love. I was really curious, but I sort of loved how you turned that, because you talked about story and telling the story of when I was starting out on eBay, and I was the first person to sell these things on eBay and so on. And it struck me, well, that's kind of about you, but then you qualified that very carefully. And I think that's a really important point. And it kind of underpins all of those key elements, is the focus on the customer. And it's got to be relevant to the customer. And with that story, it's relevant to the customer. If your dream customer is somebody who aspires to have that level of success through some similar aspect, and so therefore it's a relevant.
Yeah. So yeah, Jurgen, to be honest with you, one time in my marketing career, I was really confused when people would tell me that I needed to share more stories, because especially when they told me I needed to share personal stories, because they would tell me, hey, you need to share more personal stories. And then I'm thinking to myself, well, how does that line up with me talking about my dream customers' wants, needs, and desires? Because if I'm sharing personal stories, I'm just talking about myself. And the aha moment for me finally was when I realized there are certain stories that I listen to, and that Jurgen listens to, and that my dream customers listen to, that move them closer to taking the right actions, the actions that I want them to take. And so when I share those relatable stories, those relevant stories that have everything to do with where my dream customer wants to be, then those are the right type of stories. So if my dream customer wants to lose, 15 kilos, 40 pounds of weight, whatever it is, right? And I talk about my personal journey where I was able to lose 40 pounds within a 6-month period. That's interesting to my dream customer that's looking for that same result. But if I talk about my favorite video game when they want to know about weight loss, and I talk about this story about this video game that I played with my son yesterday, then they tune out really fast because they don't want to hear that. They don't care. Right? So it's all about sharing the right types of stories.
That's right. And the other part of that also, another key element is the emotional aspect, right? The emotional connection. And there's nothing better to connect emotionally than a personal story. And particularly if that weight loss story, for the person interested in weight loss, if that weight loss story was framed in a way that said, for years I tried to lose weight and I was always frustrated. It went up and down like a yo-yo and I could never keep it off. And then I tried this new method. And then within 6 months, I lost however many 40 pounds. And now I can keep it off because I'm following this process or this diet or this exercise regime, whatever it might be. Then there's that emotional connection, because not only have you mapped out the path that matches the dream customer's desire, you've also shared that, because they're probably listening to that because they're having trouble. So you've shared that, I too had issues, but I've found a solution.
Yep. There you go. We dedicated at least a couple of chapters in Ideas That Influence to that whole concept, because it's so important and because people don't get it. There's a disconnect. If you tell people you have to make it all about your customer and then don't talk about yourself, but then you say in the same breath, you need to share more personal stories, there's a disconnect there. It's that you have to line it up. It's got to be the right type of story, the right type of message. And then you've hit a home run.
Yeah, that's right. I want to take a slightly different tack now, because I know from your background, you've spent quite a lot of time in Brazil. You lived in Brazil. You were telling me in our pre-call that you have learnt Portuguese and in fact do business in Portuguese, which is very impressive. What are some of the lessons or insights that you've gained from working globally, working in different cultures that you've brought back into the work you do today?
Yeah, especially when it comes to marketing and sales. I learned more. I just more clearly understood that people really are stuck in their own paradigm. So what's happening in Florida, where I'm at, is nothing compared to what's going on in Victoria, and it's very different than what's going on in Brazil. And from all of these different experiences, what I've been able to learn is that one of the ways to differentiate, if you've ever read the Blue Ocean Strategy
Hmm.
books, I've seen that happen in real, like in front of my eyes, where something works, something clicks with people here in the United States, but nobody's doing it in Brazil, nobody's doing it in Australia, wherever it's at, in Malaysia, it doesn't matter. And then if you follow that same logic and if you share those same types of things, people in Malaysia, people in China, people in Brazil, people in Australia, people in the United States, we respond very similarly
Hmm.
to marketing messages and to basic psychology. And when you have the right marketing and sales principles in your marketing flow, and if in your sales processes as well, then people will respond very predictably. And so, one of the biggest opportunities in life is to take what's working in one industry, in one vertical, and apply it to a different vertical, if we're talking about working within the same geographical location, or take something that's working in one geographical location and duplicate it to another geographical location. There are lots of really cool things happening here in Florida that nobody is doing in New York, and vice versa, right?
Hmm.
And so that's probably the biggest aha moment, seeing it in front of my eyes, because working with the Brazilians and speaking their language, I would consistently open my mouth and talk about amazing things that to me are common, but they had never heard of.
Hmm. Yeah, there's a couple of really key insights into that. First of all, the understanding that there's huge opportunities there if we can kind of take those ideas and transport them either geographically or from one vertical to another vertical and translate them appropriately. The other thing, though, and I see this all the time in what I'm doing, I often catch myself when I'm doing something, is taking time to reflect on the things that you do know and what you might be taking for granted. Because in that, what you described, where you were talking to people in Brazil about certain things and everybody was amazed, and you thought, well, it's nothing special. But
Yeah.
if you keep that nothing special to yourself because you think it's not worth talking about, then you deprive those people of the opportunity to learn something new.
Yeah, yeah, and that's why I made that connection in my mind when I visited Haiti. And like I said, it was the same things being sold at
Mm,
at other ports that I had visited. Like, I mean, it was like this looks like the same stuff. This is Haiti, right?
yeah,
And this looks like the same stuff that I saw in Honduras. Why is that?
yeah.
Like, it's so similar. Like, where's the differentiation? Where's the innovation? And the prices are really low. If somebody, if somebody, which there's a lot of wealthy people that step off of these cruise ships, if somebody wanted to spend $100,000 on something, there's nothing that they can buy. There is no offer for the high roller.
Mm,
And it's because there's a lack of offers, there's a lack of differentiation, there's a lack of innovation. And same thing happens when it comes to market leadership in your current niche. When you follow everything we teach with the X factor effect and everything we teach in ideas that influence, you start to differentiate yourself to the point where you become a clear alternative inside of your niche market, and you become a market leader because what you offer is inherently different than the rest of your competition. And you mentioned in the very beginning, we talk about the fact that different is the new better. This is where we've figured that out over the past 12 years. People equate those differences with being better because quality in 2024 is expected.
Yeah.
Everybody is supposed to have a quality product or service. So quality can't be a differentiator. Quality is expected. What's different in people's mind is now what they say is better. And that's why we say different is the new better.
Yeah. I love it. Yeah. All right. Now, I'm interested in your philosophical approach, because you talked a little bit there about stuff that I think gets onto life philosophy and that, and it's around, marketing, innovation. We've discussed quite at length, and we've got our innovation round coming up soon. But how has your personal philosophy or life principles shaped your approach to your business, particularly in this aspect of differentiation and innovation?
Ooh, interesting. That's a very interesting question. My values and philosophies, how has it shaped everything? It really has put me in the boat of, if I copy my competitors, then I am not only stealing value from them, I am stealing value from all of us in a way. Like, and these are like super like deep thoughts, and I like I don't I really like I don't I don't copy my competitors. If they have something that's working, I can borrow some elements from it, but I've got to make it different and better in some way. Because I believe that if Jurgen sets up his we'll just say bicycle shop, because Jurgen rides bikes. He's getting better and better each day. And so Jurgen opens up his bike shop. If I open up a bike shop across the street and start running my business the same way Jurgen is running, I have not only stolen value from Jurgen, but I've stolen value from all of us. I am a copycat competitor. I don't deserve to be in business. I have not added value to the world. Now, if I set up a bike shop across the street and I start offering things that are different than Jurgen and start doing things drastically different, that's different. And that's okay. I'm trying to add value to the world. I'm trying to innovate in some way, shape, or form. And that's good. That adds value to the world. It brings the GDP of all of us up. Okay. Because Jurgen's still in business and his business is different and my business is different. And we're growing the market together because we're doing things differently in our own different ways. Yeah. And so I'd say that's probably the biggest way philosophically, if I said that right, that when it comes to my values and everything, how that has shaped the way I have approached business. Because initially I was like, I'm going to write my book, Ideas That Influence, and it's going to be a free plus shipping book. And then I just couldn't do it. It had to be different. And I was like, no, Daniel. And I literally forced myself to practice what I preach and do something different to add more value to the world. And by doing so, I've added more value to the world.
Yeah, I love the bike example. And I think there's kind of another lesson in that story. I mean, it's a hypothetical story, but I think it's a really good one, in that if I'm the incumbent and I own the bike shop and there's a competitor opens across the street, initially I'm going to be, this is annoying, this is frustrating, this is a threat to my business. Whereas if it's a different bike shop, I mean, let's say I'm focused on mountain bikes and you decide to focus exclusively on road bikes. Well, then all of a sudden you're drawing, and if we're both marketing to our dream customers, who are kind of slightly different style of bike riders, then all of a sudden we're drawing to that geographical location two different types of bike riders, who some of the mountain bike riders might decide, oh, I'll go and check out what the road bike shop has to offer, and vice versa. So all of a sudden we're actually contributing to one another's business. And a lot of people don't see things that way. And I think that's for me, that's another interesting philosophical thing to bring back into business.
Yeah. And if at my bike shop, I start to do rentals, you're not doing rentals yet, that's okay. I'm starting to do rentals. And because of my rentals, some people are deciding, hey, okay, I really like this. I'm going to buy a bike. Well, which type of bike am I going to buy? And then because of my rentals, which added value to the world, I might be I'm bringing up the GDP amongst all of us, because now rentals are in the mix in our geographical area. More and more people are renting bikes, but as a result, more and more people are buying bikes as well, not only from me, but also from Jürgen.
Yep.
So
love it. Okay. I think that's the first time we've used a bike shop metaphor to describe business principles on the show. So thanks for that.
There you go. We're differentiating.
Yeah. All right. Well, this is wonderful, Daniel. I'm just sort of seeing the time tick away here, and I think it's a good point now to move on to the buzz, our innovation round. I think we've probably answered most of the questions, but we'll revisit them, and hopefully you'll give us something that'll inspire the listener to go and take some action straight away as a result.
Let's do it.
All right.
I'm excited.
What's the number one thing anyone needs to do to be more innovative?
All right. So this is actually a different answer. The answer is to go down the path of mastery. And I think in the pre-interview we discussed this, Jürgen. So what happens when you go down the path of mastery is that you approach this really cool concept that a few people have talked about on different blogs and in a few books. It's called the adjacent possible. So if I go down the path of mastery, then I eventually approach the edge of knowledge within the current niche that I'm studying. And then I get to see what's called the adjacent possible, which means I get to see the next possible innovations within that niche. And as a result of me going down the path of mastery, I am blessed with this knowledge of what is seeable in the future as possibilities inside of the adjacent possible. Now, the trick, Jürgen, is that other people that are also going down the path of mastery, they also approach the adjacent possible, and they also see what could be the next innovations inside of the market. And this is why sometimes you get people that say, oh, they invented that. I thought of that idea 10 years ago. It's because they and other people approach the adjacent possible, but somebody took action where somebody else did not.
Yeah.
So go down the path of mastery leads you to more and more innovations.
Yeah, I like that concept of the adjacent possible, and I think that's you finished on a really key point there. And I mean, I've been known to say that quite a lot. I thought of that 10 years ago. Yeah, that's not such a brilliant idea, but yeah, they've turned it into something, whereas I just sat on it. All right, what's the best thing you've done to develop new ideas? Go on a cruise?
Well, yeah, traveling has helped. But I mean, and I know people have told you this multiple times, but really it's listening to podcasts like Innova.buzz and other podcasts, and listening to audiobooks, lots of audiobooks, buying lots of courses, attending lots of events. And because I've been so immersed in everything marketing and sales, usually what I'm looking for now, because I know a lot, is brand new aha moments. Because it's those aha moments that move me and that I can share with others that also move them to take action. Because at the end of the day, those of us that are taking the most action are seeing the most success. And a lot of times it's those aha moments that get us to start taking those actions. So that's what I'm in search of when I'm listening to more and more podcasts and audiobooks and taking more courses and attending more events and traveling as well. I'm, trying to connect those neurons and have more and more aha moments.
Yeah. Yeah. Wonderful. All right. And do you have a favorite resource you use most often?
Actually, and this is verifiable based off of my phone tells me what I use the most. It's the Notes app.
Yeah. Is that
So
the is that the iPhone app, is it?
yeah,
Yeah.
The Notes iPhone app. Yeah. So I use Notes for so many different things. Notes is my second brain. There's a book. Actually, I haven't read it yet. Now I'm promoting somebody else's book,
Yeah.
Building a Second Brain by
Oh,
Tiago
yeah.
Forte.
Tiago. Yeah.
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 So
I,
I think I'm following what this book says
yeah.
through the Notes app, just without realizing it. I'm supposed to read it to find out if I'm already doing what it says, but I think I am doing what it says.
Yeah.
But
Actually,
the Notes
his
app
his
is my
is one of the
second brain.
newsletters I actually read regularly, Tiago. So,
Oh, really?
yeah.
Nice. Well, then maybe if what I do, like I literally so all these ideas. If I'm listening to Innova.buzz and Jurgen, and then your guests, and I'm listening to these stories, and then I have a aha moment, I open up my apps, and I have different notes for different things, different types of stories, and I'm writing it down. And so, and then of course, if I don't write it down, I forget.
Yeah.
But in the Notes app, it's searchable. So
Hmm.
I have this second brain that I get to search.
Yeah.
And so it's been my most
Right. Yeah.
productive
Uh,
way of
So I'm
growing my
curious
business.
with all those notes, because I still forget even if I write them down, but I know they're somewhere. How do you kind of revisit them? Do you have sort of reflection time?
Yeah, I have different sections for different purposes. So for example, one of my favorite, I read this book all about personal branding and branding businesses. I've read a lot of branding books, but my favorite one was called something like the Primal Code. And then I was like, oh, I'm gonna name one of my notes Primal Code Elements. And so every single time I have an idea for my personal brand or one of my own business brands, that's where I put my ideas for the branding aspect of what I should be doing. And then I know that that note has all of my branding ideas. And then whenever I come up with a personal story that I know that I can relate to, for different types of things, I have a whole note section for my personal stories that I can share with my dream customers. And then if I hear a story from Jurgen, then I have a whole section for my public stories that are out there across the internet. And it's like, oh, Jurgen shared this story. It was amazing. Jurgen said the story, but I'm putting it in my notes. And that's kind of, so I have different sections.
Hmm.
And then I only really go back to it when needed. So if I'm creating a new training, lots of times I'm going through those notes like, okay, what's everything that I talked about when it comes to product packaging, which I actually do have I've got a pretty cool product package, and I have a training about product packaging. So I have notes and notes and notes all about really cool product packaging ideas and things that I've learned about that. And then I can put together a training pretty fast because of my second brain.
Yeah. Yeah. Wonderful. Yeah. I love the process. All right. Now, what's the best way to keep a client on track?
The best way to keep a client on track. Oh man, I had a good answer for this one. I knew this question was coming, and that's like the hard one. Keep a client on track. I don't know. Let's skip it. I forget. I had a really good answer, but I forget what it was.
All right. That's probably the most honest answer we've had. Now, this one, you shouldn't have any difficulty with this one. What's the number one question, a thing anyone can do to differentiate themselves?
Just remember the concept. The difference is the new better.
Hmm.
When people when they say something is better, they're basically talking about all the reasons why it's different in their mind and why they like that it's different. So follow the principle that difference is the new better.
Yeah, yeah, love it. And if you need more explanation on that, then go back and listen to the podcast episode from the start. All right. Well, this has been absolutely fabulous, Daniel. Now, where can people find out more about you, about the work you do, and also get a hold of that book experience or book book box. I can't remember which way around to say it.
I call it
Experience.
an interactive book box experience, which
Yeah,
I completely made up the thing.
yeah,
Like I thought about it for a while. I was like, what is this? It's an interactive book box experience. So yeah,
yeah,
long name,
yeah,
but that's what it is. What it is, and it's like the first one of its kind. That is my actually preferred way with starting the relationship off with you, listener. I'd love to send it to you for free. You just pay shipping and handling, and so if you go to bigideasbox.com, BIG ideasbox.com. Then you just put in your shipping information and you pay the shipping and handling. I'm going to send out the book and the entire box experience for free. And so if you're looking for wildly successful marketing ideas inside of your business, then this is the box experience for you. Go get it for free. Just pay shipping and handling. Bigideasbox.com.
yeah. Thanks for that, Daniel. And I can certainly vouch for the amazing experience you'll have with that, aside from, or yeah, at the same time as driving a lot of innovative ideas that you can come up with working, whether you work through it yourself or whether you work through it with a whole team, because I think there's a couple of aspects to it, and it's fun.
Thank you, Jürgen.
Yeah,
Appreciate you.
excellent. All right. Well, finally, before we wrap it up, Daniel, what action would you like our listener to take out of our conversation today?
Oh yes, the action. Yeah, I knew about this question as well. Like the big action. Yeah. So there's an old book, Differentiate or Die. Like do things differently, add value to the world through your innovations and the way you differentiate inside of your business. And that translates over to your marketing and sales as well. Differentiate with your marketing and sales, because by doing so, we all become richer. We all grow the world economy together because we create more and more incredible things that people want to spend their money on, which means more and more money exchanging hands. That's how the world economy grows, and you can play a part in it if you stop copying and instead change the story and start adding value through your different ways of innovating and being different in a way that your dream customers love.
Yeah, love it. And there's another book reference there in addition, so Differentiate or Die. Was that Cal Newport?
No, Differentiate or Die, that was, what's the dude's name? He's since passed on. It's an old one. He's the same one that wrote positioning and repositioning. Jack Trout?
Jack Trout
Al
and
Reese.
Al Reese, yeah.
Yes, there you go. That one's a classic.
Yeah.
If you haven't read that one's a classic, Differentiate or Die. So
all right. Well, thanks so much, Daniel. I've really enjoyed our conversation today. It's we've had a couple of conversations now, and it's always been fun to chat with you. And I can see your personality shine through in the book box experience. I think I got it that time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thanks so much, and please do stay in touch.
Thank you so much, Jürgen. You're amazing. Appreciate you.